Welcome back, everybody, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki. This is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. And today we have a gruesome one. It is episode 36, and we are talking The Substance, the new Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley film. It got a bunch of critical acclaim. I think it won Best Screenplay at Cannes 2024. So I was very nervous going into it because I don't do well with blood or like real life blood and surgery videos or, gruesome stuff. So I was a little nervous by what I'd heard about it, but I made it through and I'm going to talk all about it today. But before we get into that, there is so much news to go through. There was trailers, there was casting, there was rumors of why Disney is even more shitty and shady than we think. And in what else I watched later, I watched so much this week. I actually had to take a couple of things out because I'm like, hey, that's just going to run too long. So just quickly, I watched the new Wheel of Fortune with Ryan Seacrest. It's fine. I mean, it's Wheel of Fortune. It's probably one of the easiest hosting gigs on TV you can get. It's not Pat Sajak. It's going to be different. His first episode, you can tell he was a little nervous and there was a little bit of a weird pause on things, but it's Wheel of Fortune. He will be fine in a few weeks. It's Ryan Seacrest. He's the most generic host you could get. It was great. Whatever. And then also the Emmys. I don't even know if I have the Emmys on my list, but they were fine as well. I don't think there was any crazy surprises. There was lots of uproar about The Bear not being a comedy and winning all the comedy awards. I mean, I find it really funny, that show, but I get it. It is kind of more, I don't know. It could be debated forever because I think genres are just such a hard thing to narrow down now where everything is crossing over. But anyways, there will be plenty of more stuff to talk about and what else I watched, including a new TV show, a new season of a TV show, a show that's won tons of awards before, been nominated for a kajillion things that I hadn't watched yet. Finally got onto it after my friend's recommendation and I loved it. I will talk about that and an absolute stinker of a movie that I watched with commentary. But as always, there's timestamps below if you want to avoid all discussion of The Substance because you're planning on seeing it, which, I mean, I watched a trailer again this morning to remember, okay, what can I really talk about in non-spoilers and spoilers? And there's still lots of fat to chew on in non-spoilers, so we'll get into that. And I'll make sure I'm not leading to anything that could give anything away. So if you want to hear just the news and what else I watched, you can listen to both of those sections with completely avoiding the substance. But let's get right into the news. The first piece of news came from Deadline that said Emma Corrin, Micah Monroe, and Charlie XCX are to set in 100 Nights of Heroes. So on the heels of record-breaking box office successes with Deadpool and Wolverine and Longlegs, respectively, Emma Corrin and Micah Monroe have been tapped for the lead roles in 100 Nights of Hero from director Julia Jackman's period fantasy based on the graphic novel from Isabel Greenberg. Never heard of the graphic novel, but it's a stacked cast in this movie. So Charlie XCX is now apparently also going to be in the film, who I think this is her third film project that she's a part of. Pardon me. And the lead is supposed to be Nicholas Galitzine, who is in The Idea of You. He's very funny in Bottom. So the synopsis for the film is 100 Nights of Hero watches as a charming house guest played by Nicholas Galitzine arrives at a remote castle, and the delicate dynamic between a neglectful husband, his innocent bride Cherry, played by Micah Monroe, and their devoted maid Hero, played by Corrin, is thrown into chaos. The graphic novel was published by Little, Brown and Company in 2016. So fairly recent graphic novel. It's not like it's been a long running series, but it sounds interesting. I like that it's a remote castle, so it sounds like it'll be a bit of a horror film going on. I mean, Micah Monroe, phenomenal in Longlegs. Emma Corrin, superb performer. They were great in Deadpool and Wolverine. Also, they're in The Crown, right? That they play Princess Diana in The Crown in the earlier seasons. I've watched 4 out of 5 or 6 seasons. I think I just dropped off once they hit Prince William and Kate because I just don't give a shit. But that sounds really cool. I think Nicholas Galitzine in The Idea of You, I remember I talked about it on here, and perhaps I was a little harsh because that movie, it was just kind of unapologetically what it was. It was just kind of the Olivia Wilde, Harry Styles situation, and it wasn't really hiding that in my eyes as much as they don't want to admit it. Moving on to another story that isn't so cheery. Inside Out 2, this comes from IGN, who broke the story this week that Inside Out 2 was the hit Pixar needed, but the layoff employees who crunched on it are still hurting. So from the outside, Pixar's narrative is a clear story of redemption. After an undeniably tough few years battered by COVID-19 theater shutdowns, 2 Hollywood strikes, and a couple of box office disappointments, the studio needed a win, and that win was Inside Out 2. So multiple sources say that Disney leadership internally put a large part of the blame for Lightyear, another Pixar failure. They blamed it on the same-sex kiss in the film, which was briefly removed and then reinstated after an internal staff uproar. If that is true, crazy, because the same-sex kiss, it's a blink and you miss it moment. It is literally while a door is shutting, you see 2 characters kiss. So in a joint statement to Walt Disney Company leadership, LGBTQ workers and allies at Pixar said the leadership was censoring overtly gay affection at a time where employees were also protesting the company's response to Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. An employee said it is, as far as I know, still a thing where leadership, they'll bring up Lightyear specifically and say, oh, Lightyear was a financial failure because it had a queer kiss in it. I don't think anybody remembers that kiss. It's psycho to me. It's literally a second. And anyways, IGN also said the apparent hesitance to touch on LGBTQ themed storylines in particularly affected Inside Out 2's development. Multiple people recall hearing about the continuous notes to make Riley, the main character of both Inside Out movies, come across as, quote, less gay, leading to numerous edits that ramped up around September 2023 after the resolution of the WGA strike. So sources describe rumors that there was special care put into making the relationship between Riley and Val, a supporting character introduced in Inside Out 2, seem as platonic as possible, even requiring edits to the lighting and tone of certain scenes to remove any trace of romantic chemistry. One source describes it as just doing a lot of extra work to make sure that no one would potentially see them as not straight, which is psycho because almost every review you see on Letterboxd and Reddit, wherever, everybody thought Riley's deep dark secret was that she is gay and that it wasn't ready to come out yet, when it's just that she like burned a hole in the carpet or whatever. But also, who cares? Oh my god, she clearly has like boy crushes in the films. There's the Lance guy from the video game that she had a huge crush on. So they had to remove bisexual lighting? Like, oh my god, get over yourself. Every week, it's just a PR battle between Warner Brothers and Disney. Who's gonna have the dumbest story come out about them? Last week, it was Warner Brothers saying that they're putting Beetlejuice on video on demand at the start of October or middle of October, like 3 weeks before Halloween. Terrible idea. Just a brutal idea. It's making so much money. Keep it in theaters. People want Halloween movies in the theaters. And now this week, it's Disney employees that were all fired and laid off before Inside Out 2, who were all promised bonuses, and then they don't get their bonuses after Pixar is the highest grossing film of the year. I don't think Deadpool and Wolverine has passed it yet. So, oh god, I'm so tired of Disney. I'm actually exhausted. They want to make movies that just like generically appeal to everyone, but they want to not make it appeal to everyone because they only make it appeal to heterosexual, plain, nuclear family people. They can't have any variation in families because they're scared of uproar that they're going to be called woke or something. I don't get it. Just make compelling characters. It doesn't matter who they love, what their gender is, their ethnicity. Like, it doesn't matter. Everybody can relate to stories that have relatable things in them. Let's move on to a happy story now. The Bear, apparently, this comes from US Weekly. The Bear has finished most of filming for season 4 and will be ready for 2025 summer release. This makes me so freaking joyful. I wanted to include this because it makes me very happy. And there's another show that I'm watching right now that I started binge watching this week that has put out a season every year. Remember how TV shows used to do a season every year and it used to be 28 episodes a year? Remember that? Yeah, this is very happy to me. What The Bear started in 2021, 2022, and the fact that we're already getting season 4 is just so great to me. I love that we are getting consistently good TV every year. It blows my mind when TV shows have to take 3 years per season. So I get that it's good, but come on, man. Come on. It's psycho to me, and I don't want workers to be overworked or underpaid, but it's getting to the point with TV where it's like waiting on film sequels sometimes that it doesn't surprise me when it's going to take 10 years between filming in my dad's workshop, and I'm pretty sure I just saw a mouse go somewhere. Anyways, it's nice to have a live audience with me. So that's great news for The Bear. And speaking of TV shows, a trailer was released this week for The Office Australia, and oh boy, it doesn't look terrible. I don't think I laughed during the trailer, but that's not, it's a trailer to a TV show. It's supposed to just show you kind of the vibes. It wasn't necessarily hilarious. It was all very familiar things to me that I saw in the American one and the British one. But the fan uproar online, oh boy, it is not good. Every comment on every post I saw about the trailer was just fans pissed off in the comment sections, like, what the hell is this? Why are we remaking this? This isn't funny. Oh, they've gone woke because there's a woman boss instead of a male boss. Like, who cares? It's a TV reboot. You really think they weren't going to change the cast to be different people? And I don't know, there's been a thousand international versions of The Office. The fact that, I don't know, Australia got one, who really cares? It's just another spinoff, guys. It is nothing to get upset about. I think I am going to watch it because I'm curious. I love The Office. It's one of my favorite TV comedies of all time, so I am very curious to see, like, how much do they take from the American and the British version. I think it's October 14th that it comes out, October 18th, something like that. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm looking forward to it, but I'm interested. It'll be weird to see another spin-off version, but this has to be how the British felt when they saw the American version being made, because I don't even know how much Stephen Merchant or Ricky Gervais or Mike Schur, anybody that was involved in the two previous versions, are involved in this one, which they don't have to be. There's already, as I said, been a bunch of international versions, so that's completely fine. But there was one guy that I recognized in it who's from What We Do in the Shadows, and I know he's very funny, so that's at least one thing that I'm only positive about this. I'm really not pissed off, or I'm not throwing my hands in the air. Oh my god, they're rebooting my favorite TV show. There's been 1,000 versions of this. Who gives a shit, So I don't know. I can't wait for it to be, it's gonna be canceled after season. I'm no doubt in my mind it's going to be canceled after one season, just because morons are going to review bomb it. We've seen this story so many times. People get mad about a TV show, just review bomb it online. Studio gets scared. They cancel it. It could be literally like a great critically received show, but the fans, of the American or the British version just review bomb it and they get pissed off. So it is what it is. We'll see. I think you just have to keep an open mind. Oh, my dog's barking as well. Jesus, I feel like Dr. Dolittle. All right, let's talk some casting news and some trailers now. So we got casting news for Timothée Chalamet's Ping Pong movie, Marty Supreme. This cast is strange to me. So it already is confirmed that Tyler, the Creator, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Timothée Chalamet are in the film, of course. But now Odessa A'zion, who never heard of them, they're in movies called Fresh Kills and Hellraiser, have joined the cast, and it's directed by Josh Safdie. I have no doubt he's probably going to be in it. Or Benny. Which one's the one that acts? I think it's Benny Safdie that acts. So Josh Safdie, okay, he might not be in it. And then rounding out the cast are magician Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller, investor and Shark Tank personality Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, and Bad Lieutenant filmmaker Abel Ferreira. What the hell? Okay, so I opened my Twitter X one day and I saw Mr. Wonderful cast in Marty Supreme movie. I thought it was Disbussing Film, which is a parody account of Discussing Film. I literally thought it was a parody account until I Googled it. I was like, no, it's gotta be a meme. There's no way Mr. Wonderful is going to be in an A24 ping pong movie. It's true. So again, Penn and Teller, the Penn guy, is going to be in it. Mr. Wonderful. And then Tyler, the Creator, is an interesting choice. I don't think I've ever seen him act in anything. I don't know. This sounds like it's going to be a knockout to me. I think this is going to be extremely funny, actually. I love Timothée Chalamet. I think he's also a very funny dude. As much as I didn't like the movie Don't Look Up, I thought he was very funny in it. Tyler, the Creator, is hilarious in general. Gwyneth Paltrow is going to be an interesting addition. Yeah, I'm actually excited for this. It hasn't started filming yet. There's rumors that Dune 3 is filming next year, late. I think it's in August that it's going to be filming. I don't know if that's true, though. I just saw rumblings online this week because Matt Reeves was talking about Greg Fraser being able to work on The Batman Part 2 and Dune 3, but he might not be able to because the schedules might not line up. He might be busy with Dune 3. So a lot of people were head and hands worried that Greg Fraser wouldn't come back. Guys, there's a billion great cinematographers. It's going to be okay. He's worked with other cinematographers as well on all of the 8 movies. I don't think Greg Fraser worked on any of those. So it's all good, guys. But look, Marty Supreme, hell yeah, I'm into a ping pong movie. One of my favorite parts of Forrest Gump, a movie I dearly love, is all of the ping pong stuff. I love that. I'm down for a sports movie. We got Challengers this year. I'm ready for a ping pong movie next year. Okay, we got a couple of trailers this week. week, I'm going to talk about Mickey 17 really quick. Why is Warner Brothers hiding this? Is this movie terrible? Because the trailer looks phenomenal. It looks hilarious. It looks goofy, silly. It sounds like such an interesting premise that I'm really reminded me a lot of Looper. I'm really excited for it. Robert Pattinson looks hilarious. So the premise is a disposable employee is sent on a human expedition to colonize the ice world Niflheim. After one iteration dies, a new body is regenerated with most of his memories intact. And the idea is that he keeps cloning himself because his previous version dies and he's sent on these suicide missions until eventually one of them lives and survives and the next one is already alive. So it's kind of, I think it's them trying to kill each other. Looks really great. I mean, I've posted so much about it this week already on my Twitter, on my Instagram, on whatever, on everything. And it just looks fun. It has a great cast. It's like Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette, Steven Yeun, Naomi Aki, who was just in Blink Twice, right? She looks really great in it as well. And Robert Pattinson just looks so goofy and funny in it. I'm really excited. This is actually one of my most anticipated movies next year, I think. And it comes out in January. That's what's so mind-blowing to me is the fact that it's a January dump release and apparently Warner Brothers is not at all confident in the movie. And I've only seen positive reaction online. Like, I don't know. It's really strange, but it comes out January 31st, 2025. Ugh, that's so weird to say out loud. 2025. I'm going to be 25 next year. That's terrifying. Okay. Yeah. Look, I'm looking forward to that. Lots of good news this week of trailers, casting. I think there's a lot of positivity and a lot of great projects moving forward. I'm excited to talk about a couple of new TV shows and what else I watched, but I think I'm going to wrap up the news there because The Substance, there's a lot to talk about and I'm looking forward to getting into it. So let's do it. Let's talk The Substance. The Substance is a 2024 horror sci-fi film that is 2 hours and 20 minutes. Google's in a nutshell is dangerous, futuristic, and ambiguous. Completely disagree with the ambiguous part. This is the least ambiguous movie. Extremely straightforward and on the nose with its themes. Currently has an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's doing positively. 8 out of 10 on IMDb. Very high ratings on Letterboxd as well. It is directed by Coralie Farge, who I have never seen a movie. I think they've done one other movie called Revenge. It's distributed by Mubi and Metropolitan Film Export. Cinematography by Benjamin Krakoon, music by Rafferty, which we'll get into the music, but yeah, very interesting. Has 78% on Metacritic as well. The synopsis is a fading celebrity decides to use a black market drug, a cell replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of yourself. What could go wrong? I would tell people to watch the trailer for this and then decide if they want to go see it. It was really great, but let's get into the cast first. Demi Moore plays Elizabeth Sparkle. Margaret Qualley plays Sue. Dennis Quaid plays Harvey, which is just not subtle at all with the Harvey name, and I didn't even notice it until like halfway through the movie. Someone called him Harvey. I was like, oh my god, how did I not notice that? And those are really the main hitters of the cast. No one else plays a big role in this film, to be honest. It is very like focused on our two main characters. So The Substance, this was one of the most gruesome, comical, terrifying movies I have seen in so long. Like, look, for someone who doesn't do body horror, I have to look away a lot of the time in movies when they show a needle being put in skin because I just really don't like that. It's always given me a feeling. I championed this movie. I made it through some really gruesome shit, but for someone who doesn't do body horror, I was thrown in the deep end. And what can I say? I think it was kind of good to rip the band-aid off because I absolutely loved this movie. I think there will be I could see maybe some Oscar nominations when it comes to screenplay. As I said, it did win Best Screenplay at Cannes. This is a really interesting film, but as we do every week when we review something, let's start with the cast. Let's talk about the performances first. So Demi Moore plays Elizabeth Sparkle, or Lizzie Sparkle. First of all, that's just a great name for this like old school actress that has kind of moved into home workout videos or whatever, you know, like the old fashioned, you know, the home workout lady and dance instructors, like, all right, ladies, and step, that type of thing. So she is so amazing in this movie, Demi Moore. A lot of people are saying that this is her career best. I don't think I've watched enough Demi Moore movies to really have an insight on that. I think one of the only Demi Moore movies I've seen is Ghost. just holy moly. She's constantly just like reaching for an unattainable idea of beauty, and just I love characters that are constantly in over their head, and it feels like the water is just getting deeper and deeper and they're struggling to keep afloat throughout the movie. Like a movie like Good Time that I talked about a couple weeks ago. A character that is just constantly in over their head. That's how I felt about Lizzie. She's just constantly losing control in this film, and you can just feel it slipping away from her, and just phenomenal. Demi Moore has so much to do in this movie, and her role just gets more and more over the top as the film goes on and gets more and more comedic, but also extremely heartbreaking. Margaret Qualley plays the younger version of her that she like spawns when she starts taking the substance drug, as shown in the trailer. She's hilarious in this. She is so campy and just kind of cheesy, young, naive. I'm Sue. But then she like at one point just flips a switch and it's a completely different performance, and there's a few moments where she really toes that line of like about to lose control and shit's going wrong because she's bought a black market drug. Just seriously, Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, the two of them in this movie are just so iconic. They're so dynamite. They're so great in this. I kind of do want to watch it again because it is just, there's so much stuff in this that you want to go back and see some details that you may have missed, but it's so much fun to watch. I don't know, it's so gruesome but fun. But also minorly mentioning Dennis Quaid, he plays Harvey the agent. You can probably understand, or he's kind of like an executive. You can understand what Harvey is coming from, where that name is coming from. Psychotic, hilariously disgusting, and just a gruesome dude. The fact that he's done a Ronald Reagan film and this film, and they've come out like within 2 weeks of each other, is just mind-blowing to me that he can do the most left-leaning, forward, progressive thinking, talking about beauty standards of women, and then he can do a Ronald Reagan bootlicking Republican film. It's just so funny to me. But seriously, Demi Moore, oh my god, I'll talk more about in spoilers what happens, but you can see in the trailer, and I think it's really good that I watched the trailer this morning, because this is a movie you really don't want to know where it's going until you see it, because it blows your cap off. But then there's times where I was kind of like, oh, I think that's going to happen, and then something happens and you're happy it is. You're like, yes, okay, that is the direction. This movie just really gave me what I wanted, but I kind of enjoyed how direct the messaging of this movie is. And I think, with everything in Hollywood with Ozempic, and I feel like women lower and lower, like the age just lower and lower, are kind of being socially pressured into getting cosmetic work done. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not shaming, lip fillers, whatever. And I have been guilty of like just watching TV, say with my girlfriend, and making a comment like, oh, she definitely has, her lips done. And I don't necessarily mean to be negative about it, but just calling that out and immediately commenting on the appearance of people is just a bad habit to have, and I find that's just something that shouldn't be done. We don't always need to comment on the looks of people, you know what I mean? So I enjoyed that this movie just took on this kind of more new topic that we're talking about now with people in Hollywood of, look at the work this woman's getting done, clearly on Ozempic or whatever. There's always been that in Hollywood, but it's a much more new thing that's been openly talked about and is available also to the public. I feel like Ozempic and lip injections or plastic surgery or Botox, whatever it is, I do feel like with the pressures of social media, it is a much more publicly accepted, or not like publicly accepted thing, but a more widely used thing. There's so much more pressure on women to just, you have to have the same standards and body standards, and men to an extent, of women in films and TV and in the public eye, because we are sharing so much of our lives with each other. So why shouldn't we have the same body standards as, all of these celebrities? When, look, I don't know, this might be a little personal, but like I struggle with body image issues many times. I feel like we all have, and especially I'm growing up in a generation where we're constantly having celebrities pushed in our faces through social media, and also just other people. We're constantly comparing ourselves with social media, and I need to constantly keep myself in check. And one of my friends, she's really good at reminding me of this when, we've talked about in the past that these people that are in movies to play superheroes or whatever, play these extremely attractive people people on screen are literally paid to look that good, and they have people working for them that push them to look that good. Of course, they put the work in themselves to look that good, but it is their job, you know? Like going through university at times, there were body image issues, periods that I went through, and I think it is crucial for young people, or people of all ages, to be frank, to just keep in mind that when we are comparing ourselves, oh my god, I'm on such a tangent here, but when we're comparing ourselves to people on screen or in the public eye, a lot of the times they're paid to, you know, work as hard as they can to look as good as they can, and their body is like how they sell themselves. That sounds strange, but how they sell themselves on screen, you know, they have to look that way because that's their look and that's their image in films. So I don't know, I just kind of enjoyed the subject matter. It just had such a lack of subtlety. You know, there's movies that have lacked subtlety in the past, like a Don't Look Up, where it just wasn't an enjoyable experience because of the one-to-one comparisons of the real world, whereas this isn't really doing one-to-one close comparisons to the real world. It is taking kind of what's going on in our real world and just pushing it to the max, but doing it so unsubtly, doing it so on the nose, and I just loved how absurd it was. It's described as a horror sci-fi film, I guess, but honestly, it is kind of a dark comedy. In many ways, this is a hilarious movie. The people in my theater were like dying hysterically laughing sometimes, and I was like, are we all in this room kind of misinterpreting this? And then you go on Letterboxd or you go on, I don't know, Reddit or whatever, and you read other people's kind of theater reactions, and I'm always curious about that. And yeah, there was tons of people saying this movie made me laugh, but it also made me, you know, hold my head behind my fingers because I didn't want to look at the screen. And that was exactly how my theater experience was. There were moments where I was like, oh, I cannot look at the screen right now. This is just too much. But I pushed myself and I said, you know what, today, Kiki, you're going to look at a body horror, and this will open a whole new avenue of movies for you because you know you survived this. You can watch other horror movies and body horror movies. It's a whole other genre that I haven't experienced. So kind of wild. I just loved the absurdity of this and the fact that it's the day that Lizzie turns 50 in the movie. It's in the trailer, and she gets booted out of her job. But all of the men in this movie are just naturally old and gross. It's a not so subtle take on the world that we are in. You know, in Hollywood, men get old and they're like, oh, he's a silver fox or whatever. Whereas women get older and oh boy, she's really aged, hasn't she? You know, like you have 26-year-olds or 25-year-olds that are feeling the need to get Botox because they feel themselves aging already. It's like, why are we so scared of aging and our own mortality? But yeah, like I said, the screenplay, phenomenal for this story. I loved the originality. As soon as I read the synopsis and saw the trailer many months back, I was hooked. I was like, okay, I'm into this. And then I saw it was a body horror. That's when I got a little bit nervous, as I mentioned, but look, I powered through. I think you can too. What I love about the screenplay is how focused it is. It's so focused. As I said, when I was reading out that cast, there's really only 3 people that are important to this story. 2 of them, really. The agent Harvey is only a minor character, but it's all about Lizzie and Sue. They have 7 days each that they get to enjoy being in public. They are one, and it's so focused and just on task. I loved how it doesn't ever feel like the movie's kind of going off on a tangent or has like a random scene that didn't really move the plot along. To me, it felt like the whole time we were on just a great path and we were always staying on task. It's just such a great pace to this movie, which I love because it is 140 minutes, 2 hours, 20 minutes, but to me, it absolutely blew by. I was so intrigued. I was so invested. The movie never feels lost and the momentum never really lets up. Like it's always pushing itself and pushing the progression and pushing the problems of the film, which you see in the trailer talking about this balance isn't working, of 7 days each is not working because Sue is so successful and Lizzie is being forgotten about and Sue wants more time. And that's kind of where the problems of our story come from. It's all about that balance. But as the trailer says, you are one. That is an important thing, is they are one and they need to have balance. Otherwise, the substance doesn't work. So yeah, the originality of the script is one of the most fun aspects of the movie. Even if you can predict something coming, like I said, it's still such a fun ride. And there was something where I was like, oh, that thing's definitely going to happen. And when it happened, I was actually happy it did. I wasn't like, ugh, I knew that was going to come. I was like, oh, thank God they're doing that. I'm so happy we get to see this now because I don't know, the intensity of the film, it just builds and it builds. But also I feel like the humor in the film, it just kind of gets more absurd and hilarious as as the movie's going on. Like, there's just such a great crescendo to this film and such an insane climax. Every Letterboxd review I've read has just kind of talked about the last 30 to 40 minutes because it is some of the most wild filmmaking I have seen in a theater. You know, for someone that kind of has seen more vanilla movies in the past, I guess I don't really go out of my way to see a lot of extreme films. Only in my later years now, in my 20s, I'm starting to really branch out to see more random stuff, and this was nice. I you know, like I've mentioned on the podcast before, I'm trying to expand and see different genres, see movies from different parts of the world, whatever, you know, just try and build up my palette or my film taste. And I think this was a good one to add to the collection because holy shit, it is a movie that is relentless and it does not stop the whole time. The movie is, like I said, it's super funny. My auditorium at the movies was like belly laughing in parts because there is some absolutely hilarious stuff in this film. It's really funny. Both Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, they both give very funny performances at times, but also extremely heartbreaking. And yeah, there was just a lot of fun stuff in this where I was just giggling and kicking my feet. I was like, oh, this is so silly, and I'm loving it. But the directing, Coralie Farageau, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I've never heard of them, but some wonderful filmmaking. It's so in your face. It's so direct. And as I said, there's no subtlety. This is just the most in your face, like, I'm saying something and I'm just going to blurt it out. This is someone just blurting out an issue they want to talk about. And the direction just feels so fresh in every scene and it never really lets up. And there's just so much uniqueness about the movie itself. Use of imagery, you know, in the opening, we get like a fly that's swimming in water and it's representing Lizzie's career as dead in the water. So she goes and she signs up for the substance when she hears about it. It's just, it's fascinating. You know, it is fascinating. There's also, she gets flowers on her 50th birthday from the studio saying, "We love you so much. Thanks for all the fun. You were great." And Lizzie is just staring at the "were" on the card, just the word "were," that like, it's over. I am past tense. I am the past. I'm no longer the present. I have no future. It's just great. Versus Margaret Qualley's Sue character gets flowers from the studio because she's a big success. She's offered this one gig and they say, "You are going to be great." And on the card, she just keeps focusing on the R. And same with Lizzie. When she wakes up after 7 days, she looks at those flowers and looks at R and is just so upset and pissed off. And I love it. There's just so much great visual storytelling, you know, of just like focusing on certain words or certain aspects. So there's fun shots everywhere, and I can't get into the spoiler parts that were so much fun, but look, this movie was a blast. Seriously, there's so much just insane visuals when they're transforming from Lizzie to Sue, kind of the journey we go on and the visuals we take. Like, the visual journey we take is just so crazy. It was, oh my god, it was like a fever dream. I just had no clue what was going on and what we were seeing, and just the mind fuck that was going on was so awesome when they're transforming. A few more things. I have only one real issue that I'll bring up in a second, but the makeup and the prosthetic use in the film is so great. I would not be shocked. I don't know. Is there going to be a makeup nomination? I don't know, but just the makeup use in this film is so insane. I can't spoil anything with makeup, but it's so disturbing at times. But one thing in particular I want to touch on is the score. The score was A+. Another great score we've had this year. Reminded me so much of Challengers. Seriously, as soon as it kicked in, I was like, oh damn, we're getting like a techno low bass Challengers dance type vibe to this. It carried out throughout the entire movie. I love the score. Super effective. So much of this movie reminded me of Challengers with some of the directing and choices we get. This isn't a spoiler, but a shot in a garbage can that reminded me of the under the court shot in Challengers where there's a glass effect on top. Just really awesome. And the movie actually works in chapters as well. Every chapter of the movie, it's Elizabeth, Sparkle, Sue, and I won't say the name of the third chapter because it's a spoiler, but it felt really effective to me breaking up those chapters. You feel the intensity pick up throughout every chapter. Like, it's a very clear beginning, middle, and end to me. Just, again, great storytelling, great screenplay. I like the chapters themselves. Specifically, the third one almost has a hilarious effect. Like, it's very funny when it pops up because you're like, holy shit, we're really doing this. Okay. And yeah, again, I love those kinds of movies that just get further and further in over their heads, where our characters are just going nuts and it's just like the absurdity is picking up. But the only strange part, here's a strange thing that happened in the movie for me. There is a lot of continuity errors in this. It was just really bothering me on many times. That was maybe my only down score of this movie, and why it wasn't a 5 out of 5 is just, no spoilers, but one character goes into a cafe. I guess I can say Lizzie goes into a cafe. She orders a coffee and the server goes, and then all of a sudden we get a shot of her stirring the coffee mid conversation when the server wasn't anywhere to be seen. The coffee just kind of shows up. There's a lot of things of like Lizzie holding something and she walks out of a room with it when it was plugged in the other room, powered on a second ago. There's a lot of weird continuity things of things popping up in scenes or things just disappearing. We're just all of a sudden in a place, or things, I don't know. There was maybe a few continuity errors that made me feel like I was going insane that I noticed, but I don't know. They're not big enough for me to hate the movie and make it feel like it was sloppy, because it was just kind of adding to the messiness of the story itself. Look, apart from that minor issue, I was so entertained. This is a movie I will remember and think about for a long time, because I have never seen anything like it. I am not a body horror person. I'm curious to hear from people that do have a bit more experience with body horror and stuff like that. What did you think of it? But I can't recommend The Substance enough. If you're a fan of horror, absurd comedy, or body horrors, I hate seeing needles in movies, but I survived. This was a knockout film for me. One of my favorites of the year. Seriously great. It's definitely in my top 10 this year. I couldn't recommend it enough. Go and see The Substance. It is a movie that you will think about for a very long time. Has great performances, but let's get into spoilers. The balance isn't working. Let's get into spoilers. You can see from the trailer where the issues of the story come from. Sue starts taking advantage. You know that it's the schedule that's going to be the issue, because each of them wants more time. Lizzie, she wants more of her old body back and she wants to enjoy the fame, whereas Sue wants to enjoy her current body and enjoy her fame. So she starts taking hours and takes the stabilizer liquid out of Lizzie, when the problem is, and I think what this movie does really well is nailing down the rules and establishing how this body switching works. I think it's really great. There were a couple times where I was in my head, I'm like, how does that work? And then they explain it 5 minutes later. I'm like, perfect. A+, no notes. I have no questions. They do such a great time of maintaining the believability of this and being like, no, this is a system that works, and we explain every step. And there's just like these simplicity of cue cards with all of the rules established on them. And I seriously, I loved that. So you can see that Sue starts taking hours, and for me, that was such a great twist of, Sue, don't get greedy now. And as soon as she says, it's only a few hours, Lizzie, it'll be fine, I just immediately, I knew this is not going to end well, and it doesn't. So I didn't know what the consequences would be, though, and that is that when you take hours from your older version of yourself, or your base self, or no, the Matrix self, I think, I can't remember what the term was, but she takes hours from her and it ages the other person like crazy. So it just begins with Lizzie. One of her fingers just ages like 40 years. It's crazy. She gets like liver spots, a rotten nail. It's insane. Eventually, Sue, I knew as soon as she gets offered that New Year's job, oh no, Lizzie, it's over. But I did not think it would go to the lengths that it was over for Lizzie, because the movie, yes, is like absurd and horrifying, but it's actually extremely heartbreaking. Lizzie, the scene where she meets up with the guy she knew in high school and he offers to go out for a drink, but she's still like super famous at that time, and she obviously thinks she's better than him, so she calls him when she first starts aging in her finger, because she's like, all right, I need a pick-me-up, I need someone to worship me. It's just so sad. Like, for a movie that's incredibly horrifying and hilarious at times, I was actually very sad for Lizzie when she starts getting her youth, or her current age even, taken away from her by Sue, and she starts aging like crazy. But as heartbreaking as it was as well, when Lizzie shows up in that full aged kind of monster hunchback, sagging, skin everywhere, bald monstrosity, I don't know, I feel like I'm being rude. Is that rude to say? But no, like, it's all prosthetics. And oh my God, terrifying. Just absolutely hilarious. And everyone in my theater, it was like seeing the monster in Alien Romulus. Everyone in my theater had an audible gasp of like, oh my God, what the hell is that? And the movie turns violent. I was blown away how goofy the violence get. At one point, Sue kicks Lizzie in the chest and she just goes flying across the apartment and smashes a glass table. And the violence in this reminded me a lot of Bottoms. Just the absurdity and the comedicness, the funniness, I don't know, the comedic nature of the fight, how both of them just take so much damage. Like they get their heads just smashed in and then they're fine. A few minutes later, just carry on. Oh my God. It was just psycho to me. But yeah, it reminded me a lot of Bottoms, and I was just like laughing half the time through the violence because it is just so absurd, and then they kind of just recover right after. And I think I could watch Demi Moore in that crazy makeup and prosthetics, that disgustingly hilarious prosthetics and makeup she was in just cooking because her agent gets her that French cookbook for retirement, and she's just pissed off. She's just hate watching an interview show with Sue and just mocking her the entire time. That was one of the funniest parts of the movie. Demi Moore, man, she's just manhandling the turkey that she's like de-gutting and stuffing or whatever. She's just throwing a blender around and shit like that. And people in my theater, including myself, were just cackling laughing because it's genuinely one of the funniest sequences I have seen this year. I was dying laughing, but I knew as soon as she wanted to terminate the program, because you do have the option to terminate, you can kill your younger version, but the problem is you don't get your youth back, or like you don't get how you looked when you started the program. You cannot go back. I knew she wasn't going to go through with it. As soon as she put the needle in, I'm like, she's not going to do it, and she's going to wake up. Sue is going to wake up. Lo and behold, she wakes up, and because she revives her with her own blood. I freaking knew it, man. And that's when we get that great fight sequence. But I wasn't upset that I could predict where it was going. I was actually very happy that they went that way. I was like, please give us a fight. Just the visuals of Hunchback Lizzie with all of her prosthetics on, just running around like a little gremlin. It was just so crazy. One of the funniest things I have seen this year by so far. It's just the fact that this young, super athletic, toned Margaret Qualley is just fighting this old hunchback was so absurd to me. It's so, again, this movie is actually very fun as well. Like, it's a body horror. It was very heartbreaking at times for me, but it was also kind of hilarious. And I knew that moment was coming. As soon as she wanted to terminate, I knew we're about to get a hunchback, a battle. Okay, let's talk about those final 30 minutes are some of the most absurd filmmaking I've ever seen. Last year, my girlfriend and I, we watched the movie Carrie, which is, I don't know, considered to be a Halloween classic, I guess, or like a cult classic. And I thought there was a lot of blood in that. I was like, damn, cool. Reminds me of Blade as well. This movie might just put that to shame because it is a room rained with blood. So I loved the twist that, and I actually didn't see it coming. Sue was going to inject herself and try and get a younger version because she's run out of stabilizer. I thought that was such a phenomenal twist to the story and just kind of shows the cycle that even young people want to look younger or look like they did before, and we're just constantly reaching for an unattainable beauty standard. And like, holy shit, the amount of blood when the monster Elizabeth Sue Sparkle or whatever its name was, so it becomes this morphed mutant monster of the two of them, and they're both stuck together in it. Crazy. And it was just a hilarious final scene when she shows up to the New Year's Eve show. You know, when all the people are just screaming, monster, it's a monster. They're all just pushing her and stuff. It felt like very Frankenstein, and I don't know, it was just some crazy filmmaking, to be honest. And then I love when movies do like the same scene at the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie. So we see the start of the movie is her Hollywood star after the egg injection part where it shows the two eggs split from each other. But I loved that they went back to the Hollywood star and it's just the leftovers of Lizzie, her face and some wrinkled gross skin or whatever, just like crawling over, and she just dies on her Hollywood star and gets swept up and forgotten about. Insanity to me, man. Oh my God, this was so crazy. But the whole final third act was just so well done that, you know, her teeth start falling out and she's pulling out her teeth and stuff, and just the monstrosity horror of it. It really, to me, it really delivered. And what I loved most about this movie, it was just a huge swing. This movie was just a director and writers with an idea, and it's such a big swing that this could have failed so poorly. Like, this could have been ridiculous and seemed way too on the nose and not funny, like a Don't Look Up. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes an absurdity can just become too much. But to me, this just nailed every aspect of it. Maybe some continuity errors that they could have thought about a little bit more, but I just had so much fun with it. Like, it just feels like there's such a great kind of natural progression to the story that feels like, yeah, this is where we should be going. And you always feel like you're on a very focused, correct path when you're watching the movie, which I just really loved. Like, those 30 to 40 minutes at the end, I'm never going to forget, because just seeing monster Sue Elizabeth or whatever was just so much fun. Her stretching out her dress and sticking a Lizzie Sparkle mask to her face or cutout paper was just, it was so hilarious. I can't recommend this movie enough. Like, there's just so much fun stuff that happens when Sue starts getting greedy with her time, and Lizzie just spends all of her time just binge eating and like watching crappy TV, whereas Sue is living her best life and a TV star now. I don't know. I loved it. I would love to hear what you all think of it, but that's been the substance. Very fun. Let's get into what else I watched. Okay, the first thing I watched, I have never seen the movie Morbius, and because the Weekly Planet are on a break, they put out the Morbius Weekly Planet commentary from, I guess, their Patreon or whatever it is, and hilarious. So I watched it with their commentary. I've never seen Morbius before, and that movie is insanity to me. It is so, first of all, it's so bland and boring, and it is actually one of the least creative stories I have seen in so long. Matt Smith, who I think is maybe one of the most overrated actors, I think he is so overrated in everything I've watched him in, including The Crown. Matt Smith was just so dog shit in it. Jared Leto, I don't know why he keeps getting work. It's just crazy to me. He's literally like a pedophile. People know this, right? But anyways, Morbius, another Sony movie. I don't know why I keep trusting them. I need to watch Venom 3 comes out later this month, so I think I want to rewatch Venom 1 and 2, but because I honestly cannot remember what happens in those movies. All these Sony movies just kind of blend together to me because they're so unoriginal, generic. It's like, oh, bad guy becomes good guy, fights person with same powers as them. It's just not original to me. I think Madam Web was the only one that broke the formula where they're not just fighting versions of themselves. But yeah, also I recommend, if you're going to watch Morbius again, watch it with the Weekly Planet commentary, because they just have some hilarious insight during it, and it's kind of fun to watch it with a commentary track on it. I miss the days of watching director commentary and sometimes cast members coming in, and yeah, that was really great. I also watched episode 4 of English Teacher this week, which talks about guns in schools, and they start a gun club with the school, and it's just very fun. I think The English Teacher is such a hit show. I think it will definitely get a second season depending on where this season goes. I don't know if they want it to be a limited series, but it's so funny, and it kind of talks about, you know, current issues today without being annoyingly on the nose and like in your face about progressiveness. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like it's doing it in such a fun way and talking about open subjects, and just great stuff. I love it. Like, I'm not someone that's like, I'll keep politics out of movies and TVs. I don't care. It's what it is. Like I said last week, art informs culture, culture informs art. English Teacher, I'm recommending it again this week. You have 4 episodes that you can watch now. I recommend it if you enjoy TV comedies. Brian Jordan Alvarez is so funny in it. But a show that started this week, well, one of 2 shows, Survivor 47, started this week. Dear God, we are off to a hot start. Andy is a total mess. He literally has a nervous breakdown, panic, paranoia episode because nobody's clapping when he chops coconuts. What? It's just like, it's all in his own head. And if you want to see someone creating their own anxiety and paranoia just literally taking over in someone's behavior, watch the first episode of Survivor, because Andy's problems in that episode are all just created by himself. He sits down during the challenge because he's just overwhelmed, and he's like clearly having a panic attack, and he's overheated, and he just tells Jeff like, yeah, I'm being voted out, like I'm done. And you can see Jeff Probst is so fucking pissed off and so annoyed with how crazy Andy is. He's like, no, you're not. You're still on Survivor. That's Survivor. Stop acting like you're out. And it's just so clear. And then he throws John under the bus, and John gets voted out. Oh my God, John Lovett, the one person I was looking forward to seeing on the show this season because I know who they are. And he's voted out first episode. Like, what? Anyways, my girlfriend and I, we decided we're going to try and predict who we think is going to win. So this week we created a shared note on iPhone, and my winner pick, well, actually, I'll start with hers. Her winner pick is Sam from the Yellow Tribe. I think that's a solid pick. He seems like he's getting a lot of screen time. He's a good personality. Seems like he can fit in with a lot of people. Mine, however, is Aisha from the Red Tribe. She is on Rob Has a Podcast, which if you don't know is like a reality TV podcast where they focus a lot on Survivor. But anyways, she's on that podcast. So she definitely has a knowledge of the game. But just how much attention she got in that first episode, which, you know, to be fair to her and the editors, she was part of an idol situation. She did go on a journey and there was lots of stuff to cover with her. But also she's just getting a very winner edit to me. And if she doesn't win, I definitely would pick her for Final 3. She's getting a very Charlie edit from last year. I really do like the cast this year, to be honest. I think there is a lot of great characters on it. There's actually a woman from Winnipeg, so that's cool seeing another Canadian on. To me, this is a very well-balanced cast. I think there is a good mixture of different backgrounds. It's not just like all lawyers. There is a lot of podcasters or like writers this year, like sports journalists or whatever kind of writers. But Andy is the only one that really annoyed me because he was just falling apart the whole first episode and was like, I can't do another Banu this season. I said to my parents, actually, I said to my girlfriend as well, I hope that Andy actually turns it around and makes a deep run in the game. It would be nice to have someone kind of prove all the haters wrong. Okay, 2 more things to talk about. My friend recommended Only Murders in the Building to me this week, and because it was nominated, it's been nominated literally every year since it's come out. So I binge watched season 1 and season 2 episodes 1 to 5. I freaking love it. It's actually just so fun. Like, it's not my favorite show of all time, but it's just good, entertaining, hilarious TV. Like, it's not something I don't think I would ever rewatch, but it's so much fun. It's some really great storytelling in it. I'm not a true crime fan, but I just love the mystery element of it. But also Marty Short and Steve Martin are just electric. They are so funny together. I'm going to keep binge watching it because it's just so funny. I don't know. It just feels like every episode there's such a great twist, or it's so hard to predict for me. And I really only knew the killer of season 1 in maybe the last 2 episodes, like 5 minutes before. I think that's great in a show, and it's great writing. I totally get why it's being nominated for everything. It's such good quality TV that you binge when you start it. Like, it's impossible to pace out. And also the building, I don't know, there's not only great characters in it, but the building itself is just so fun and like gorgeous and plays such a role in the show, specifically season 2. And my friend said it plays even more in season 3 or 4. I can't remember. I'm kind of late to the party, but Only Murders in the Building. Hey, this show that has been everywhere for the last 3 years. If you haven't heard about it, maybe go check it out because it is really fun. But final thing of what else I watched before I wrap it up here, The Penguin. It started last night on Thursday the 19th. It's going to be switching to Sunday nights. It is a week-to-week show. I loved it. Oh my God. It was so good. Those first 10 minutes perfectly continue on from The Batman, which I'm actually seeing on Monday night because it is Batman Day, 85 years this weekend. Colin Farrell, amazing. He is so good in the show. It's oddly funny. Like, it actually has great moments of comedy in it, which just like The Batman also had some very funny moments in it, but it's just a good crime show and it's a really good gangster show, which I love. It's entertaining. The pacing's great. The acting is phenomenal. Good production value for like the most part. There's only a couple parts where I was like, okay, it is a TV show. It's not a $200 million movie, but if you enjoyed The Batman or just like casually watched it and were like, yeah, that was fine, I would totally recommend The Penguin. I cannot wait for the week to weeks. It's nice that The Penguin's out now because we're finally getting news about what The Batman Part 2 is going to look like. It's going to take place in a few weeks after the first one, and it's after The Penguin wraps up. This is like a great bridge between the two, and they are looking at making another show to serve as a bridge between the two, but I was hyped for The Penguin, and it totally lived up to the hype. The dynamic that's in all the trailers between Oz, Penguin, and Victor, his kind of underling that's working for him, is so great. The Penguin literally has his own Robin. It's so great. Like, seriously, how many times can I say it's so great? It's such good television. HBO does not miss. I totally get why they put it under the HBO banner because it just has an HBO feel to it. I think that about does it for what else I watched. I watched tons of stuff. I watched the Emmys. I watched Wheel of Fortune a couple times with Ryan Seacrest. I watched a few movies, TV shows. What am I going to watch this weekend? It's Friday. I'm going to edit this today, but tomorrow, Saturday the 21st, I am seeing Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Extremely excited about that. I think I'm going to try and sneak in the 3rd and 4th Superman movie before then. On Sunday, I'm seeing Transformers 1. What's it called? Transformers 1? The new Transformers movie. I'm seeing it in theaters. Last night during the Substance, it was packed with Transformers fans. I'm excited for that. Monday, I'm seeing The Batman in theaters. The day this comes out, I'm seeing The Batman Monday night, re-released in theaters. Very excited. They're replaying all the Batman movies and Mask of the Phantasm. So every movie movie that got a theatrical release, but it's just really weird screening times or show times for them, so I can't catch them all. But yeah, that's what else I watched, and that's my plan, and I'll talk about the rest of that next week. And I think that's going to do it for episode 36. The Substance, a fun one, a body horror, but you know what? Kind of hilarious. And I hope people do go see it because it is a very fun experience. If you don't do well with like gruesome stuff, I don't think you'll do well in this. I was one of those people that didn't really do well with needles or gruesome or blood stuff in movies when it's very clear people being cut open and stuff, but I survived it, and honestly, it wasn't that bad. So go watch The Substance. As always, rate and review the show. Rate it 5 stars on all of your podcast streamers, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or Acast. Rate it 5 stars everywhere. Leave us a great review. It could be read on the show if I notice it. Leave us 5 stars. Also, share it with a friend. Share it with the world. Share that you're loving this podcast or that you hate this podcast. I don't mind if you don't like it. Share it. Share your opinion. It helps with engagement either way. So I would love to hear from you what you think. We're also on YouTube, though. If you're listening on YouTube, please like, subscribe. Make sure you're hitting the notification bell so you know every Monday as soon as the podcast is dropped. Also, leave a comment. What did you think of The Substance? Or if any of the stuff that I was watching and what else I watched you saw, what did you think? Did you watch episode 1 of The Penguin this weekend? Are you enjoying it? Does it have the same feel as The Batman to me? I forgot it was rated R, or like TV R, or whatever that is, TV mature, I guess. And I was like, oh damn, like there's a lot of F-bombs and like violence in this. That's cool. What did you think of Ryan Seacrest taking over Wheel of Fortune? Any thoughts? What did you think of the Emmys? Were you happy for Shogun? Were you happy for Hacks? Were you sad about Only Murders in the Building not winning anything? What did you think? What did you think of the John Oliver dog moment where they started playing him off when he was talking about his dead dog? That was so goddamn funny. But you can also get in touch with the show via email, watcherofallthings@gmail.com. Get in touch with me there. What do you want me to watch before the year ends? Lots of movies still coming out. Oh my God, we have a packed schedule for the rest of the year. We are also on social media. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Threads. The TikTok is watcher.of.all.things, and the Instagram and both Threads are just Watcher of All Things. Go follow, like all the posts, go see what I'm posting there. I'm posting lots of stuff daily and stuff like that. I'm also on Letterboxd. You can follow my personal Letterboxd. I'll follow you back. It's KikiJ70. That's KIKIJ70. Go see where The Substance ranks on my 2024 ranked list. All of that good stuff is in the description below on all of your streamers and YouTube. As I said, go rate and review, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Next week, it's a big one. It might be a cringe one. It's Megalopolis. I'm excited. It's either going to be a train wreck or a crazy swing. Either way, I think it's going to be really fun. Francis Ford Coppola, that guy's nuts. He's a piece of shit. And I'm very interested to see the final project of him selling a bunch of his assets and funding his own project. But thank you all so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed episode 36, The Substance. I hope you enjoyed The Substance. If you didn't, I would love to hear why you didn't like it as well. And I will see you in the next one.